What's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bull Central here. So if you caught my last video, I talked about the unfortunate news for Bulls fans and seeing Anthony Davis sign a 5-year contract, which I think all but secures the fact that we likely will not be seeing AD in a Bulls uniform, or at least not in his prime anyway, which is what matters. But also that we, really just need to simply accept the fact that we're not going to be able to get him and focus on improvement and progress this season, heading into next summer's free agency. And with that, as you know, the Bulls are currently in training camp. We have the regular season coming up in less than 3 weeks, and so far, I like what I'm hearing from the team and coaches in training camp. I shared a video on my initial thoughts coming out of day one, and since then, we've got to see the players play a bit more, as well as speak to the media and their thoughts on how things are going. Now, guys, I usually not to try to place a ton of credit in what players and coaches say to the media, because a lot of times their responses are very canned statements that they essentially have to say in order to save face and keep things, from the press if anything needs to be remained behind closed doors. Like how many times have we heard a player say that they're happy playing for a team and can't see them leaving for anything, all but to see them leave a few months later in free agency. But what I've honestly been most pleased by in terms of what's being said by the players is the complete change in energy and atmosphere in this year's training camp. There's a quote in an article from the Chicago Tribune, and this was by Zach LaVine, where he stated, "There is clearly a different energy." And this is in reference to now, being under a new front office and coaching staff. He said it's not just a palpable feeling in the mood of the team either. He has noticed differences from around the Advocate Center, with the front office and coaching staff being very much heavily involved in the players' not only professional development but personal development. And this is a quote from him saying, "They're showing their faces. I see them every morning. I get here at 8 and they're already in the gym. They're on the court with you, and not just talking about basketball, but personal life things. What things you like around here, what things you don't like. They want to be upfront with you. They're willing to change and hear players' opinions. That's something different from the past," end quote. And guys, see, that's the thing this franchise really needed: a front office and executive team that is personable and relatable. The guys, meaning the players, are not just robots or commodities. They're still people that want to be treated fairly and with respect. And honestly, that affects an athlete's game. And we've seen stuff like this happen before in the league. We've seen players like Dennis Smith Jr., who had a really solid rookie season and who looked like an up-and-coming player, just completely fell off after being traded to the Knicks. And obviously, the Knicks, we all know they're not the best run franchise. Or a guy like Avery Bradley, not saying he was a star by any means, but he was a very, very strong, capable player for the Celtics. And then when he was traded to the Pistons, he was slowly just becoming a forgotten player in the league. And that's because players do feed off the teams they play for and the culture and environment they're in. They want to be a part of a culture that means something, that stands for something, and that is ultimately a winning culture. Now, the other thing players have noted is the impression rookie Patrick Williams has been making. And one of the things the coaching staff and the front office continue to emphasize is this kid's humility, how hardworking he is, always wanting to learn and get better. Overall, it sounds like, he really has a good head on his shoulders, and honestly, that goes a long way in this league. And the players have been really impressed with his defensive ability for his young age. He plays very physical, already NBA ready, so I guess, it is starting to make more sense why the Bulls drafted this guy at number 4. I still think they could have traded back for him, but again, it sounds like that wasn't really panning out as they got closer to the actual pick itself. So they went ahead and selected him, and I am really excited to see what this kid offers this season. Looking forward to seeing him play. Now, the other thing worth noting is that it does sound like the Bulls are going to ease Otto Porter back into the lineup. Billy Donovan did say in an interview that the amount of time he's missed, his health is the most important thing, so they are going to take things slow and ramping him back up. Now, to me, this means, Otto likely won't be starting for the Bulls, at least not initially to start off the season, which leads me to believe that it's possible Patrick Williams might get the nod to start at the 3. Unless, of course, they move Levine to the 3, Kobe White plays the 2, and perhaps they start Satoransky at point guard. I hope that ends up not being the case and they go with Patrick Williams at small forward, but we'll see on that one. And then finally, there was a quote from Arturas regarding free agency for the Bulls being relatively quiet. He mentioned that this reason for this was because they were pretty happy with the roster and what they had. He said, and this is a quote, "We didn't have a lot of wiggle room to work with. We added players that are versatile, we added some leadership, experience to the roster we already had, and that was the mentality. And also preserving cap room for next summer and using this season to look at our roster and evaluate and see what long-term goals will be this following season." And guys, which honestly, this is the right mentality to have. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Bulls didn't have any cap space this offseason. And sure, they could have made some trades to initiate changes to the roster that way, but given the circumstances of last season and the Bulls being riddled with injuries and just flat out poorly coached, it makes sense, to give this group of guys another shot, to see how they fit together and assess what the path forward looks like as they head into free agency next year with obviously much greater cap flexibility. Anyway, I am excited to hear, the players are energized for the season to begin, and they're happy with the new management. Honestly, I think it's been a long time since we've heard that from players. I feel like for a better part of over a decade now, we as Bulls fans, there's always been a strained relationship between management and the players. A toxic culture that really impacted the players' game on the floor. Now, I do know there are some Bulls fans who kind of treat, anything Arturas says or does as the gospel and that they have full trust and confidence in him. Now, I'm not going to go that far. I mean, this is the guy's first season, and we haven't even seen the Bulls play a regular season game with him at the helm. But I do want him to prove that he is the right fit to be leading this team. But at any rate, I like what I'm seeing this far and what I'm hearing from the players. We'll love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments, and as always, please be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, and I will catch you guys in the next one.